And to October the 4th, which is when we announced our last statistics, we're now at 2.5 million downloads per day. So in less than a month, our average daily downloads has grown by 500,000. And we're starting to really see the momentum. We announced last week that there's now also 70 developers worldwide that have achieved more than 1 million downloads for their applications within Ovi Store. And we kind of have this millionaire club you know, that we're welcoming on a monthly basis, you know, more and more developers. There are developers such as Offscreen Technologies that have done tremendously well. They've now achieved more than 48 million downloads of their content through Ovi Store. You know, so they're seeing a download every 3 seconds from the store. So it's, you know, really tremendous. You know, so really, you know, the story that we've been taking to the developers is, you know, it's one of simplification in terms of the build process. We're working very hard to make sure that our devices, you know, when we're building our devices and when we're launching our new devices into the marketplace, that we're maintaining compatibility for the developers, so that they really are in a situation where if they choose to use the Qt SDK or the Web Runtime SDK, they can be confident that their applications for sure will work across the 4 devices that we're going to launch tomorrow, but moving forward, any additional Symbian 3 devices, any Symbian 4 devices, and then when we announce our MeeGo range of devices, which are our mobile computers, developers can be confident that the applications that they're building now, that they build in the Web SDK or the Qt SDK, will work across those devices. So we're safeguarding their investment for the future. And then, you know, we then started to obviously talk about, you know, then what we're doing on the distribution side to make it easier for developers to publish. And so we, you know, initially when we launched the store about 18 months ago, you know, it was first of all only available for companies. Individuals could not publish in the store. We've now made it available for individuals to publish. We've waived the €50 publishing fee, so it now costs €1 for someone to become a publisher within Ovi Store.
Wow.
We had originally had Symbian signing and Java verified as signing requirements for the store. We are now, as Nokia, signing the applications on behalf of the developers, so we've removed that signing requirement and the cost of the developers.
I read that in the Nokia forum.
So it's really about trying to you know, simplify the build process, reduce the speed to market for the developers, and then of course really by continuing to invest and promote Ovi Store to build the addressable market for the developers in the Ovi Store, and you know, seeing the tremendous growth. You know, our average downloads are increasing by 500,000 now in the last, you know, in the last 4 weeks. You know, so we're at 2.5 million downloads per day now. So we're now starting to see that developers are responding very well. You know, we're starting to see more and more developers that are achieving success within the store. They're reaching that 2 million, you know, 1 million download rate. So yeah, it's growing, and I think, you know, really for us with our forecast, you know, that our expectation is by the end of this year to ship 50 million Symbian 3 devices. Really what we want the developers to understand is that, you know, Nokia represents a tremendous opportunity for them.
Yes.
You know, we're very much listening to, you know, what we can do to simplify the build process and reduce the time to market and reduce the cost to market. You know, and working hard to make sure that we increase that addressable device volume.
Kenny, some of the best app developers the world over are actually Filipinos. I don't know if you're aware of those, some of the games that we've done. So I just want to ask, what are the main benefits that, you know, app developers can get from actually developing applications for platforms supported by Nokia?
So I mean, you know, the main benefits we would say is, first of all, that we have the global scale.
Yes.
So, you know, if you think about, you know, the process for a developer trying to build their application and take it to market, you know, a few years ago, if a developer had an application, they tried to sell it. They had a number of approaches they could take. If they were big enough, they could maybe go directly to the operator and sign a distribution agreement with the operator. But typically that would take quite a lot of time, and the operator would go through some very careful due diligence process and had scalability restraints on their side in terms of the number of developers that they were able to work with. I think the advantages that the developers have now with the Ovi store is that, effectively, if they build an application, they can upload it to the Ovi store, and within 5 days their application can be live in a global marketplace where they're able to distribute their application to over 180 markets around the world, and they're able to sell their application via credit card or operator billing. So they have a number of payment issues, so opportunities. So there's definitely a scalability opportunity with Nokia. On a local level, and this is really where we're very much focused on working with locally relevant brands, is that we recognise that consumers, they have global tastes. There's certain global brands that consumers will want to have on their Nokia devices. Applications such as Facebook, YouTube, for example. But there's also a real demand for locally relevant applications. Classic example, consumers want to be able to access the news that's local and relevant to them, so they want to be able to use sites such as the Inquirer and be able to have that on their device. And where Nokia is working hard with the developers in this market is to really share with them the insights of the kinds of applications that we see our consumers wanting to be able to use. What are the best technology choices for them to be able to do that? And then once the developer has built the application, then how we can work with them on a close basis in terms of marketing this, so making sure that when they launch that application into the Ovi store, that it's prominently placed, that it's easy to discover for a Filipino consumer. Understanding the channels that that developer or that content provider will also use to promote their applications, and then we provide marketing tools for them to be able to provide deep links within their channels to be able to direct consumers to their content within Ovi store. So typically one of the ways that we will work with developers in this market is that is to work with them on their publishing plans and their roadmaps for content, and then understand how we can promote that and how we can collaborate on co-marketing plans, either directly with the developer or also with the operator.
Yes, yeah. Kenny, can you discuss the revenue potential? Because I understand that the platform is being distributed to millions upon millions of users the world over. Can you please give us an idea about, just the revenue potential of actually being a developer of applications for Nokia?
Okay, so I think we announced when we launched the Ovi store, we announced a revenue share of 70-30 in the favor of the developer as a revenue share. Now that's an industry standard revenue share for credit card billing. I think the big difference with the Ovi store compared to any of the other application stores is because of our long history of working with the operators, we understood that operator billing was an essential component to any application store. So where we've really differentiated the Ovi store from all the other application stores in the marketplace is that we're the only application store that offers operator billing. And we offer that today in 91 markets. Now, when we originally launched the store, we launched with a 70-30 revenue share. But there is a difference in the business model between credit card billing and operator billing. Typically, when you talk about revenue shares for operators, you deduct the local sales tax for a particular market, and that can vary from market to market. But then you also deduct the operator billing charges from the equation. Now, depending on the market that you could be in, the billing charges could be, the operator could take 30 to 40% billing charges, or actually in Southeast Asia, more of an industry average is that the operator could take as much as 70 to 80%. So actually, the amount of revenue that's available for the developer compared to the gross price, if the developer sells their application for 100 pesos, for example, the reality is the revenue that they could have seen may only have been 10 pesos. Because once you take the local sales tax and the operator billing charges away, the actual revenue is a lot smaller. So, we listened to this feedback, and one of the things that we announced at the Nokia Developer Summit is an all-new billing model for operator billing. And the revenue share that we now have for operator billing is 60-40 in the favor of the developer. But that is a 60-40 revenue share based on the gross sales price of the application. So basically what we are saying to the developer is, regardless of what the revenue share is that an operator is charging for the billing charges, we will guarantee that you will always get 60%.
So you will actually pay the operator in some cases?
So in some cases we are actually subsidizing the cost of that. And so what the advantage for the developer is, that gives them a lot of transparency. So they very much understand, because typically developers, when they're selling their application, they want to understand how many applications do they need to sell at a certain price point in order to make a return on their investment, in order to cover their costs. Now that's a very complex calculation. If you have to look by country at what is the local sales tax, what is the local billing charges for the operator. So it was very difficult for a developer to be able to anticipate that, because they wouldn't really know until they actually see their revenue statement at the end of the quarter or at the end of the month, to see how much money they've made. With this new 60-40 revenue share, they're able to do that calculation. All they need to know are two things. They need to know what price point have they chosen to sell their application at in a given market, which they define through the OV store when they're publishing the application. And then they just need to look at what is the sales tax in that market. And that's commonly available information. Typically we say to a developer, on average, if you're selling your application globally, as a good metric, you should assume that the average sales tax you should allow for is about between 17 to 20%, typically depending on the local market, but that's a good calculation. But from there, it makes it very easy for a developer to say, okay, I understand if I sell my application at this price point, I need to sell so many units in order to make a return.
Yes.
What we've seen in terms of performance, though, is that in the markets where we have credit card billing and operator billing available, we're seeing a 13 times increase in the number of purchases from OV Store because operator billing exists. So what we're seeing is consumers are a lot more willing to pay for their application. They're expressing a lot more choice that they want to pay via operator billing than by credit card. Now today we don't have operator billing or credit card billing in the Filipino market. We are working on that, and we're speaking with the operators. It's our ambition to get that as quickly as we possibly can. The next market, so in SIAP, if you look at the Southeast Asia region, we have operator billing and credit card billing in Singapore, also in Australia. By the end of this month, we switch on all the operators in Thailand. Next in the roadmap for us is Malaysia, and then we also have plans for Vietnam, Indonesia and Philippines, and those will be taking place next year. So today we've got 91 operators globally, where a developer sitting in the Philippines, they can build some content and they can, within half an hour they can upload it to OV Store. It goes through the QA. Typically we're seeing that the QA process is taking maximum of about 5 days. And for their application to be live in the store. But you've got developers today that can actually be selling their content in over 180 countries around the world, which is phenomenal. I mean, a couple of years ago it would be, in that kind of distribution would be unheard of for a developer. In the what we see in the Philippines specifically, what we're seeing from OV Store, we're seeing pretty good growth. We're working hard to increase that. We're seeing about month on month about 10% growth in the traffic. It's tending to be dominated by S60 devices today.
Yes.
I would say about 89% of the downloads that we see through OV Store are on S60. The two devices that are most popular for consumers downloading content are the 5800 and the 5530. But we're seeing the C3 is growing, so that's a Series 40 device.
Yes.
Launched that in July, August.
And we're starting to see, that's a very fast growing device in terms of downloads.
And a lot of people here like it. It's like the successor to the E63.
Yeah, exactly. So, in terms of the content that we see, applications they account for about 40% of the content that we're seeing in the store. In terms of downloads in the Philippines, games are the second largest category. They're about 32%, and then I think it's personalization content, so ringtones, themes, wallpapers, which is about 26% of the downloads. And actually, themes are pretty popular, it seems.
Candy, you mentioned earlier that you're giving incentives right now for those who want to start developing their apps. Can you discuss to us a bit about these incentives?
So the real incentives that we're giving is providing support in terms of the kind of support that we're providing to the developers. So we have a number of developer program tiers of our developer program with fn.com. We have